You're watching Safety on Sea, advice for personal safety on boat journeys on open sea. In this episode, I want to give you some advice to ensure a most meaningful way of caring for the personal safety on open sea. It is based on my own experience with my boats. This is a video of my series Adventures with my Trawler Yacht Whitehorse at Grand Banks 36. Here's a short overview of this episode. We will look at various aspects of personal safety on board of a boat or yacht. Topics will be education of the skipper, personal floating devices, flotation suits, safety ropes, personal medicines, handheld VHF-Radio, whistles, and practical testing of equipment. The first and probably most important advice for you as a responsible skipper of a boat is education. You have to care that your crew and passengers are not in danger, and that everything is done to secure the safety of your people. Only education, and based on this, practice of using your boat can guarantee this. I had been using a 7.5 meter motor day cruiser since 9 years, until I bought a larger boat about 3 years ago. I did not attend any courses, but had read several books on rules and laws of the sea and how to drive a boat. When I decided to buy a larger boat, I knew I needed more knowledge. So I enrolled in a skipper's course that would enable me to take responsibility for boats of up to 24 meters length and travel on any oceans of the world. The course took about 3 to 4 months of intense learning. Most of the teaching was done online with very good and experienced teachers, and a very practical approach to the theory of various aspects. Topics included planning and calculation of navigation, theory and practical use of navigation equipment like charts, electronic chart plotters, radar, echo sounders, GPS, and rules and laws of the sea. Theory of ship's stability, including calculation of center of gravity and how to distribute loads on board. Engine know-how and technology, reading and predicting weather development, and many aspects of safety for crew and boat, like fire, medical assistance, first response tasks, safety of equipment. Finally, I had to learn how to navigate on open sea when no GPS was available, and how to calculate tidal influence when driving in waters where there were large differences of water height. The course included also a practical part, using a 20-meter professional fishing trawler, where various maneuvers were trained, like man overboard, leaving and approaching quay, taking correct action when crossing other boats, and driving in difficult and demanding situations, like waves or heavy snowfall. Calculating and following a planned way from one to another predefined location through difficult environment like small islands, currents, bridges, and tight corridors. At the end, theoretical and practical exams had to be passed at a nautical exam center and a practical checkout using the fishing trawler. In addition, a health check made sure that there were no health risks that could hamper the safety of ship, crew, and passengers. Finally, after all, I received the international certificate D5LA, allowing to steer boats of up to 24 meters length on all seas worldwide. Now, let's look at personal floating devices, often called life vests. When being in an open boat or on the outside of a boat with closed cabin, you should always wear a personal floating device that matches your body. Here in Norway and in many other countries, it is law that one personal floating device has to be carried on the boat for each person on board. Life vests consist usually of some sort of floating foam bodies that are sewed into the jacket. A good life jacket has a collar that secures that the face of the person always is kept in the air. Children under 10 years should only use such types of floating devices. Life jackets are, unfortunately, often bulky and not very comfortable to wear. A better variant are inflatable devices. These are usually also automatic inflatable as soon as they get immersed into water. They consist of two suspender-like parts that are worn in front and a collar. On the back are the belts that secure the device on the body, and there should also be a belt that is fastened from the back to the chest by leading it between the legs. This secures that the device cannot slip over the head when jumping into the water. I recommend to have such devices for every crew and passenger on board. And because they are so easy to wear and hardly disturb as long as they are inflated, they should always have it on body. Did you like my video so far? Then I would be grateful for you subscribing free of charge to my YouTube channel to help me finance my work. Thank you. The next topic are flotation suits. These are full-body suits that have built-in buoyancy foam that provide flotation. They are very good insulated too, in order to delay the onset of hypothermia, that is, getting excessively cold in the event of being unintentionally in the water. These suits help keep the owner floating, but it is still advised to additionally use a personal floating device. Usually, these suits have some sort of sealing around wrists, ankles and neck, so that less water can enter the suit. They also have reflective tapes in order to make a person better visible and are often in a neon color like red or yellow, sometimes light blue. These suits should be worn whenever you experience rougher water or cold environment and you have to exit the interior of the boat. Many of the suits also have a hook or loop to attach to a safety rope. A cheaper variant, but still very helpful, is a thermal suit. This type does not provide buoyancy, but still protects very good against cold. The wear is lighter and more flexible than the flotation suits. Safety ropes are short ropes that can be attached easily to the boat on the one end and to the flotation or thermal suite on the other. Not all boats have the necessary fixing points. Instead, the skipper can decide to have a rope tied around the boat's cabin where such safety ropes can be attached easily. It is important that the safety ropes are as short as possible, but not as long as to allow the person to fall overboard. Hanging on such a safety rope outside of the hull of the boat could easily be fatal, as it would be very hard to come loose and just as hard to get up on the boat again. I do also count personal medicines to the personal safety relevant articles to have on the boat. With this I mean pills, injections or other medical articles that the owner needs to live. Examples would be insulin injections or other diabetes control pills, blood pressure medicines, blood-regulating medicines after a stroke, etc. These medical articles should be in a quantity that is sufficient for a week, and they should be kept in a watertight plastic box that can easily be taken with when having to leave the boat in an emergency. VHF radio communication is essential when boating along any coast. Handheld VHF radio devices with a DSC button are usually not in sufficient quantities available for every person on boat, but still they are very useful. DSC means Digital Distress Signal Communication. When this red button is pressed, the VHF radio will send a distress signal in digital form with all necessary information to find the radio device. These devices have a built-in GPS encoder so that the exact position of the owner is communicated to the receiver of such a distress call. VHF radio signals can travel between 10 and 20 kilometers on open sea, or even longer to the Coast Guard's network of VHF towers. All boats and ships having a DSC-enabled device will hear your distress call and get the position coordinates to find you. When someone happens to be in the unfortunate situation of floating in the sea, a whistle is an important safety device. Often, but not always, there is a simple plastic whistle attached to the floating devices. A tune from such a distress whistle can be heard much better than any person that calls for help. It can be very important for the rescue people to find you in a sea of waves. I've told you about many devices now, but just as important is it to get used to them. I advise you to plan and carry out a personal practice test with your safety devices. Automatic inflating flotation devices are easily to be retrofitted with new CO2 cylinders and the small paper part that triggers the inflation. You will be surprised of the bang you will experience when the CO2 streams into the bags of your life vest, and you can find out whether the color is holding your head over the water. And while in the water, you can test also your whistle whether it blows a good sound. Such tests are especially important for children. Children under the age of 10 should not have the inflating floating device, but should be provided with a phone type of vest. It has shown that every child on board should have had the experience of how it is when it is hopping with a life jacket into the water. Children might get a shock and stop breathing when not having had such an experience. And being thrown into the cold water in an emergency is a shock. I also advise you to make a test call with a VHF radio to the coastal guards. They will appreciate your call because it helps make the system better and more secure. You don't need to say much. Just issue a call like, "I'm calling Coast Guard, Coast Guard, Coast Guard. This is John." By the way, use your real name. John calling. This is a test call. Whether I can reach you with my VHF radio. Please confirm. Over. If the Coast Guard on duty hears you, he will answer your call and confirm that he could understand you. Such a call is free of charge.
Tschüss Radio, tschüss Radio, tschüss Radio. This is Whitehorse, Whitehorse, Whitehorse near Celje. This is a connection test with my VHF-Radio. Can you hear me? Over.
Norwegian Coastal Radio South, Hotel 1, Channel 01.
With this, we have come to the end of this episode. I hope I could give you some valuable advice on personal safety on sea. The next episode will cover safety aspects and devices that are to be considered as important equipment on a boat. If you liked this episode, you will support me if you subscribe this YouTube channel free of charge using your Google Gmail account. Don't forget to press the like button and the bell to be informed when new videos of mine will be published. Goodbye until our next virtual meeting.